Welcome to the Leadership Expose podcast. This podcast is for purpose-driven leaders at diverse levels and organizations around the world who are seeking to scale and transform their leadership, to level up their business, and to create an impact on the lives of people all around them. Business and boardroom topics, trends, innovation, transformation, and the intersection with leadership is the focus. We enable success. I'm your host, Stephen Paul. In this episode, we meet Cory Lee Cannon. He's a Major retired U.S. Army Reserve working as the Command Knowledge Leader at United Nations Command, Combined Forces Command, and United States Forces Korea in South Korea. Cory brings diverse leadership experience and accomplishments within and outside the military. We'll hear about him and how he's leading knowledge and innovation management within the Department of Defense space and what that encompasses. Thank you for your service, Cory, and welcome. How are you doing today?
Doing well, and yourself?
Wonderful, wonderful. You know, just before we started this podcast, Cory, we were exchanging where we're based, and as you know, I'm here in London, UK. What about you? Do you want to share where you're based?
So I am currently based in South Korea, and this is the fifth time I've been here over the past 15 years. Korea has pretty much became my second home. But this time around, I'm actually here as a government civilian, as a command knowledge manager for the three commands, as you mentioned.
Wonderful, wonderful. How are you enjoying the country and the city? It's not your
I mean, it's wonderful here.
Yeah.
In fact, we have a nice, good, sunny blue day here. So
yeah. You know what? We're also having a wonderful morning here on a Tuesday. It's sunny, but we're also approaching winter, even though it's officially fall. Cory, we're keen to hear about your personal, your professional journey. You've been in the service. You're now in a civilian role, but keen to hear about your journey and your intersection with all the things that you've accomplished. So go for it.
Okay, so I started off my military career in the United States Marine Corps back in 1998. And was an enlisted soldier, or enlisted Marine at that point in time, doing field radio operations. So basically, I was the guy walking around with a big antenna on my back saying, "Shoot me first." And then in 2002, transferred over from the Marine Corps to the Army, where I then became a transportation officer at that point in time, and where I spent the rest of my military career in the realm of logistics. So basically knowing how to get things from point A to point B and what means to do it in. But during that time, I also picked up an additional role as a knowledge manager. So basically on how commands make decisions and what ways, forms, and places to do that in. And did everything from collaboration environments, common operating pictures, community of practices. Those things begin to spring up during that period of time when I was in the military. And also development of decision-making tools came about during that time too. So being able to find information, make sure it's in the right format for commanders to make decisions upon. Did that until I retired back in 2019 as a major, and transitioned over from the green suit to the blue suit. So went from military to government service at that point in time, where I stuck with the knowledge management realm. For those who don't know, knowledge management focuses around 4 pillars. Those 4 pillars are people, process, organizational culture, and tools, whether those be digital tools, analog tools, doesn't matter, tools are tools. In fact, people are tools in some aspects. But being able to use those 4 pillars to drive towards either a collaboration effort, so you got the whole of staff effort on things, or drives towards more of a decision-making process. So did that for, well, I'm still doing that now, and help write the DoD definition for knowledge management. I've been working on trying to develop the future, the way the future construct for knowledge management should look like within the DoD space, as well as whole of government, on what knowledge management can do for other departments and agencies across the whole of government aspect as well.
And Cory, you were mentioning about developing this framework for decision making, the knowledge management, and so forth. At the time, were you in the field doing this, and was it just specifically for the areas that you served, or was it much more wider?
So it was for the commands that I served under, while either deployed or back at the home station, because within the DoD space, knowledge management is relatively new. It really took off back in around 2008. So we're not even, we're just barely a little over 10 years into this. But in terms of actually developing a career path and the way on how to do knowledge management effectively, we're still, into young stages of all this. This is something that will evolve over time as technology improves, as the way we communicate improves, the way we do business improves, so will knowledge management on how we do things. So,
and Cory, is this your focus now in terms of knowledge and innovation management? And you mentioned, it encompasses the people, the processes, the cultural aspects as well, and all the tools, digital or otherwise. Is that your primary focus now, and looking to embed that across the organization, I'll call it?
Yes, and it is my primary focus on that, especially within those 4 pillars. I am currently also a PhD student at Bangkok University there in Thailand, trying to get my PhD in knowledge and innovation management.
Amazing.
Yes, so great program down there. Can't say enough good things about them, but that's been my whole focus, at least for the past 5 years has been my focus, is the whole knowledge and innovation management piece of all this. It used to be just knowledge management, but if you look at knowledge management holistically, the output of knowledge management is innovation.
Yeah.
So is looking at how innovation also plays a role in decision-making processes and everything.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more. I mean, like how would you, we've talked about broadly, people, processes, organization, but the application of knowledge and innovation management within an enterprise, whatever that might be, business or otherwise, military or command forces, whatever that might be. How do you see that being applied in practical terms?
So the way I see it applied in practical terms is by first looking at people. Do we have the right people in the right place to be able to drive decisions or to drive information for the organization? If not, let's make sure we get the right people in those right places. From the organizational culture aspect, do we have the right climate, environment for people to be able to talk freely to be able to interject when needed, to be able to have those conversations to drive to better decisions in the long run. Processes, make sure your processes are codified, make sure it's something that's repeatable, make sure it is able to be, something that people can actually agree to run through that process. And it's not a long, laborious thing that at the end comes out to, a either a non-decision or able to come back with a negative aspect of that process. And then tools, what venue or what vehicle would that be? So whether it be, utilizing meetings as a tool to be able to get those ideas or communicate those ideas across, whether it be a community of practice, whether it be a portal where you have some sort of digital portal or a website that people go to collaborate on ideas or topics or stuff like that. So being able to look at those, how all those things kind of fit together to either drive for the organizational situational awareness on what's going on, or towards more of a decision-making aspect of it.
Yeah, yeah. And do you feel that, or in your experience, do you feel that culture also plays a big role in influencing some of these changes? Because ultimately you're making, I mean, all of this or most of it leads to decision making, whatever process that you're putting in place, knowledge management, innovation, and so forth. There's an element of decision making towards the end. So it kind of converges towards that. Do you feel that parts of it also is enabled by culture of that particular organization and how
Yes,
things are being done?
yes, highly. Culture has a huge weight when it comes to how innovation happens within an organization. If you don't have the right climate or the right organizational culture to be able to collaborate or bring ideas to the table, then innovation suffers within that organization. You're not being able to bring in new ideas or look internally for ideas. You have potential issues of bringing outside sources in, and where they believe more the outside sources than the internal sources sometimes, because hey, it's an outside entity. We trust them more than we do our own folks. Or do we trust our own folks more than we do outside entities? I mean, there's a balance that needs to be made there. Or, is it more of a top-down directed, hey, we will change, and this is how we're going to change, rather than having more of a source by community or source by the crowd type of mentality of, hey, bring ideas to the table. How can we source those? What are some pros and cons of those type of innovation ideas?
Mm, mm. And you just touched on something here, pros and cons. And when we look at different environments here, whether it's military environment or the commercial business environment here, do you see any differences, or do you see that bringing certain commonalities around the spaces of knowledge and innovation management, how things are done in both worlds, is something beneficial eventually, or is that something that you're driving, or is it more one-sided?
So, at least with the organizations I have been with, um, on both the commercial and on the Department of Defense side of the house, um, to me, there's a lot more change can happen within a business organization, especially like a startup type company where they're just starting in on how to do things. An established company has a harder time making those changes that needed to be able to make having that culture of innovation to happen. Now, here within the past few years, I'll say the Department of Defense has done a better job in terms of opening up their aperture and appetite for innovation, in terms of trying to get ideas from that soldier, that sailor, that Marine, on the ground, their ideas up to where it can actually come to fruition a little bit faster than what it has been in the past.
Amazing. And Cory, is there any non-sensitive stories that you can share that comes to your mind that has resulted in a highly positive outcome? Anything related to knowledge management and decision making, or even otherwise?
So I would say a good news story in terms of decision-making processes within a couple of organizations I've been in, is that actually having a set process on how decisions are made. So establishing set meeting times and setting meeting topics that feed into other meetings that have more of a decision authority over them before you get to that CEO or command level final decision maker on that particular topic. We find that when we do that type of construct, it kind of refines the topic quite a bit. It actually gets to the heart of what the true decision that needs to be made. And on top of that, it kind of gives the CEO or that commander time to provide that their wants, their needs, their desires, or their influence into the process as well. So with that in mind, having that process set up for how decisions are made, it has been a good process to deal with and to stick with. It also gives the organization as a whole a way to vet a lot of these topics. So for example, if you have your human resources and your, let's say your R&D engineers, for example, there's topics that the R&D engineers may have that may not affect the HR folks, but there are also topics that affect both the HR folks and the engineers when it comes to, getting the right personnel hired on staff, or, some sort of policy that may affect one or both of those parties. So being able to have that venue for them to talk things out helps out the organization overall.
Amazing. Cory, tell us, what's your formula to your success? Any one thing.
Any one thing to the formula of my success is listening to what the people are saying and actually getting down to the root of the question of, so what? Yeah. I hear what you're saying, but what's the end state of this thing, whether the topic may be, but be able to answer that so what question. So that way I can go to the CEO, the vice presidents, the chiefs of staffs, that type of thing. Say, hey, this is what the staff or your organization is looking at. This is what they're looking for. This is the kind of a way forward on something like this, and being able to give that honest assessment, honest analysis on how to drive from where we are today to where we need to be tomorrow. Yeah. So that's kind of my secret to success.
It's such an important one. I can completely relate to that one, Cory, because we tend to be sometimes we tend to be very siloed in our thinking and just think about our own specific goal without actually thinking the so what and the impact outside of that space. Right. And what it actually means, like you mentioned, to the CEO or to the people that they care about as well. So if one thinks a little bit more by asking that question, and so what, then it becomes a lot more broader, and it makes it a little bit more understandable across the board. So I can completely align to that one. That's differently brilliant. Aside from innovation and knowledge management, any other important topics or challenges that you're seeing these days that would impact business leaders, whatever environment that might be, whether it's in the military, outside the military?
So I think one of the things that's been coming up, at least the past few years within um, the whole government space, is this aspect of data to decision.
Mhm.
So to be able to use data and find ways to use data appropriately to drive towards decisions um, later on. So one of the things that I'm actually looking at currently is how do we implement that within a military structure? And do we have the right people, the right processes already in place to do stuff like that? Um, or what do we need to do to make that happen? So that's kind of one of the things that I see, at least within the whole of government, is being able to look at data differently, um, and being able to say, hey, yeah, this is the way we need to view data from here on in, or hey, this is, get away from the PowerPoint slides and go more dashboard is the other major thing I see is, how do you look at data through a dashboard rather than on a PowerPoint slide?
Mm.
If something happens here and now, that data changes. For example, financials. Financials change on a second by second basis. Doesn't
Mm.
matter if you're dealing with budgets or bit currency or what they are. There's always changing in the financial realm.
Yeah.
How do you display that? How do you brief that? Those type of things. You know, people are so used to doing static display, slides on
Mm.
that type of thing. But when you really need to brief it, hey, this is where we're at right now on the budget at this point in time.
Yeah.
How do you drive decisions past that point?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a real time information, real time insights, and the ability to interpret that and make those decisions, as you said, rapidly or in real time, as opposed to
Correct.
something that has been prepared from a while ago, because
Correct.
things are moving so quickly. Yeah, absolutely. I can completely relate to that one. Cory, tell us about you. What does a day in the life of Cory look like these days? Morning to
Let's
evening.
see. Well, first things first, got to have my coffee. So, I mean,
Yeah.
but normally between 3 to 5 meetings a day, talk to my, usually get brief, usually do like a 5 minute stand up in the mornings with my team. Usually try to do a closeout midweek with my team in terms of major projects that go on, uh, because we have multiple fields within our shop as well. But making sure that we're hitting all of our projects that we're in charge of, and then being able to listen to our commander um, in terms of what his needs are, and the way he sees things going forward. So to be able to take that back to the rest of the staff and say, hey, look, this is what he's saying, this is what he means, and then this is how we need to go forward from here to answer these types of questions.
Mm.
So um, that's pretty much on a daily basis in terms of evaluating the command needs and decision making processes and stuff like that. So,
Amazing, amazing. Cory, we're coming to a close very shortly. Are there any closing messages or a challenge to other leaders or boards or business organizations in or outside the military, the government space, that you'd like to highlight here?
um, so basically, a couple of things here that I would say for, especially for businesses. Um, Definitely try to understand what knowledge management is and can do for your organization. It can be a force multiplier for your organization in terms of being able to save the organization time, money, and resources. Um, and once you get on board with that, being able to budget it appropriately for what it needs to do to make sure that your organization succeeds. Um, Normally, there's typically a low cost, no cost aspect of knowledge management to make some easy, quick wins. But if you look at a long term strategy, you may have to budget a little bit for it, but it should be nothing that would break a typical organization's bank or anything like that. So as long as you got the right person in there to work it for you, knowledge management should be, I think you could do knowledge management at any organization that is out there. And it's more than just the tool. It's again, goes back to the 4 pillars of people, process, organizational culture, and tools.
Yeah, amazing. Those are such important pillars that any organization at whatever stage that they might be, going through to adopt and to embed as well. No, thank you very much, Cory, for being with us today and for sharing your journey, but also those great insights around knowledge and innovation management. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for having me on.
Awesome. Okay, folks, thank you very much for listening in, and stay tuned for our next episode where we hear from the CEO of a neobank and his secrets to making it work in the industry. Stay tuned for our next episode on this and continue to stay on to hear about an exclusive offer for you. Hey, I hope you enjoy the podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. You're now seeing this part of the video also because you consume some of my content, insights, and teachings. Maybe you've been to my LinkedIn page or website or seen other social media ads or listened to my podcast. I'm Stephen Paul, a business and transformational executive coach, strategic advisor, leader, and board member. I've been in diverse roles, corporate executive, entrepreneur, and worked with businesses and firms of all sizes, built and launched businesses, created high-impact boards, and so forth in 4 continents. I get it. I've been there, done that, but what is different is I bring a unique perspective and a playbook. I've helped 100+ business leaders just like you to scale and align their leadership top teams, the board, and overall business for growth. Leaders like Ivana from medium-sized company in the EU who grew 150% and expanded globally in under 5 months. After she started to work with me over facilitated sessions in an initial 3 days, I helped fine-tune their strategy and align their leadership team and board to be a cohesive driving force to achieve their dreams and outcomes. I want to teach you the same thing and more on how to scale and align your leadership team and board so you can increase your business growth and value. Get clarity on what is the next right strategy for you. There are multiple ways we can work with you. Number 1, click the link for a free, non-obligatory 60-minute initial strategic session. Let's get a feel for your dreams, your vision, your challenges, and let me convert that into a route map for you where we can co-develop and co-pilot. Number 2, enroll in an innovative and intuitive digital online course that I have curated, created to help you transform. It's called Unshakable Resilience. It is the ultimate program for individuals and business leaders like you who want to be equipped at a personal and professional level to respond to any form of challenges or in crisis situations and take on opportunities with grit, resilience, and build a mindset of success. In essence, you want to be unshakable, thrive in crisis, take on opportunities in the face of adversity, and build a success mindset. So, click the link below to learn more on how I can personally help you individually and your firm to scale and align your leadership team and business and pivot in a transformational way. And for you to experience this, whatever the challenge you're facing, get in touch with me. Let's discuss, and I will share my insight rapidly to enable your transformation. Click the links below.